Hey folks, welcome back to the Evil Dungeon Master channel here on YouTube. Just want to say thank you for all the people that have been listening, following along here on YouTube, downloading the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The numbers have been going up for the podcast. It's just really amazing. I really thank everybody for that. Up to 6,600 subscribers here on the channel. I find that amazing. I didn't think I'd ever get that many subscribers, but I thank you for that. But today, by the way, my website is called evildm.com. That out of the way. I always forget to do that in the beginning, so I want to make sure I get that done. So today I want to talk about my favorite, my top 5 sci-fi games that I like to play. Maybe they might be on your list, maybe they may not be on your list, maybe there's some that you don't know about, but we'll see. My first on the list, and this is not in any particular real order here, and it's not by like best to worst or worst to best or anything like that. It's just mostly what I put here in the stack. My first thing is Alternity. Alternity by TSR, or it was basically towards the end of TSR, around the time that Wizards of the Coast purchased them. It was their answer to Star Wars for Wizards of the Coast. Of course, after they purchased the Star Wars license or got the Star Wars license, they pretty much threw this out. They didn't care about it anymore. It has been revived in another form. I haven't looked at it, but I have so many books with this. Shatterstar, Dark Matter, playing various things with it. It's a really interesting system with a D20 die and a supplemental step die that goes along with it. It was kind of popular. It does still have a website that will feature the game still, alternity.net, and you can still go there, and there are still people down creating stuff for it, and you could still play it. It was a beautifully done book, and I'm really sorry that Wizards of the Coast decided that they wanted to throw this to the side for Star Wars. I mean, Bill Slavicsek and Richard Baker did a great job on this, and it was one of my favorite things to play at the time. Putting that down, my next game that is probably one of my favorite sci-fi games to play, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, Star Wars D6 by West End Games. It's pretty much a perfectly done game for Star Wars, especially the first edition in my eyes. First edition is so simple, it's cinematic. It allows the GM plenty of room to narrate his GM story that he wants with Star Wars, and I really enjoy the D6 system. It's one of my favorite systems. Probably in the top 3 of favorite systems is the D6 system. Mini 6 is probably in there as well, because Mini 6 is so easy to play. I have a whole blog dedicated to Mini 6 called d6dimensions.com. Talks all about that. But yeah, this is another one of my favorites to play. You can easily play that game and pick it up still, no problem. Another game that a lot of people don't particularly like all the time, but it is a classic game, and it's a game that I got into a little bit later than probably everybody else. I really enjoy playing this game because it's a simple game. Traveler. Here's the facsimile of the 1977 or 79 rules that I was able to pick up from Drive-Thru RPG, and then here is the 1981 rules, books 1 through 3, which you can get both off Drive-Thru RPG. 2d6 system, very simple to play. You can create whatever you want with it. You can even play like a World War II game with this, or you can play a fantasy game with these rules. You just have to modify things slightly for it. The problem that I've run into this, and it does give you rules for it later on, is the as people call leveling up. You have those players that don't like to have the non-leveling up games, and they get all pissy about that. It's one of the things that I can't stand. I call Travel a front-loading game, meaning you do everything up front for your character, and then you play out the adventures of your character. It is an amazing game to play once you get your character down and playing. But book 4 in Traveler does have some rules that allow you to increase skills and things like that, or gain new things. So you have to heavily modify it, but if you have those players in your group that just have to level up, because the game's not worth it unless you level up, there's your rules. But by proxy, and this one gets honorable mention here, I'm going to stick it right in the middle, is Hostel. And this, I only have the solo version of Hostel in hardback. I have purchased it, Hostel, the game itself. It is an awesome, gritty sci-fi setting, like a dark sci-fi setting that is in space. It's inspired by Traveler. It uses the Cephas engine, and I highly pick it up. By Zoser Games, I highly pick it up. You don't have to get the solo version. There's a full Hostel setting that you can get, and it has settings, it has ships, it has various things. There's just so many supplement books for it. It is really a lot of fun to play. And if you're itching for that dark sci-fi, like Aliens or something like that, but you don't want to play Aliens, so to speak, because you don't want the branding or whatever, Hostel is definitely your game. I highly recommend picking up Hostel. Now, finally on my list is a game that's pretty old, and it's a game that I really enjoy playing because I played this so many times solo when I was in high school, well, probably before high school, maybe even middle school, if I remember correctly. Yeah, junior high. I don't know, whatever they called it back then. Star Trek, the role-playing game. This game, I can't tell you how many times, because when I was growing up, I was a huge Star Trek fan, and I remember Star Trek fans were made fun of. Everyone go, oh, you're a Trekkie, you're a Trekker. And people used to make fun. Like, I remember going to the library and trying to pick up a book. Library. And pick up a book because I wanted to read another Star Trek novel. And like, people were like, oh, you're a Trekkie? Oh, it's over there with the nerd set. I'm like, really, give me a break. But yeah, I was really in love with Star Trek, the original series. I remember coming home in the summer after playing outside all day, and Star Trek was on WOR, I think it was called, at 6 o'clock, and I would sit down and watch it after dinner and just enjoy the original Star Trek. And then when I found this game, because I started getting into role-playing games back then, around that time, well, maybe it was in, I don't know what grade it was exactly, but when I found this game, I started making up characters on my own because nobody wanted to play this game. Everyone's like, back then was AD&D or some other game, but Star Trek, people really didn't want to play because it was like, Star Trek was too nerdy to play. So I spent a lot of time making up characters and then putting the characters on their own adventures and stuff like that. And yeah, I was solo role-playing before solo role-playing was a thing. I didn't know what it was called. I just called it, playing by myself. And I would put them on little missions. I could have them sneak into places and try to figure out what's going on. And when it came to negotiation and stuff like that, I just really rolled dice. I didn't actually do voices and stuff like that. I just kind of pictured in my mind and did stuff like that. It's an easy D10 system. I should say percentile 10 system that you roll. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's done by FASA. It's hard to get a hold of these things. I have this one and the original box set with Kirk and Spock. This one has Kirk, Spock, and McCoy on the front cover. This is second edition. But it still has everything in here, I believe, since the day I bought it. Yeah, it just doesn't have the dice anymore. I think I lost those in the move. But one of my first characters was a Commodore because I just kept rolling until I was able to get a Commodore level character rank wise, and I remember going around trying to save the galaxy as a Commodore because I didn't know what I was doing. But those are my top 10 favorite game. Top 10, wow, top 5 favorite things with honorable mention of Solo Hostel. Same system pretty much as Traveler. What are yours? I'd like to hear what you think in the comments, your top 5. And do you agree with my top 5? Have I missed something that maybe you think is better? Or something else? I mean, this is just sci-fi. Like hard sci-fi. Nothing else. I didn't want to include the things that could be sci-fi or fantasy sci-fi, like fantasy sci-fi Dragon Star, D20, or things like that. Tell me what you think in the comments below. With that said, I'm going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school. Remember, there is no drama, no clickbait, and there's all gaming here on this channel. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Don't ever